Let me just ask you right off the top, this $26 billion federal spending bill for the states, President Obama calls it the jobs bill. Others call it a bailout of the big blue states. Where do you come out?
Well, this is nothing more than a continuation of the failed economic policies of this administration for the last year and a half. It's a $26 billion bailout paid for with more than $9 billion in permanent tax increases. It's a payoff to the teachers' unions. And it's just kind of more of the same spending, bailouts, stimulus that, frankly, the American people are rejecting in overwhelming numbers.
You know, a lot of people are saying, look, you've had balanced budgets in tough states like Indiana, where you come from, Virginia, New Jersey, elsewhere. Why can't the bigger states in California and New York, why do they have to have federal spending bailouts? Why can't they balance their own budgets the way some of these other states have?
Yeah, you know, I think it's really the right question, and we're awfully proud of the state of Indiana and our great governor, Mitch Daniels, who for years now have been making the tough choices to put our fiscal house in order. In Indiana, we have a budget surplus. But, you know, it's probably one of the most offensive things about this $26 billion bailout is essentially we are putting off the hard choices that state governments need to be making right now by essentially borrowing from one credit card of the federal government to another. I think, you know, one of the big misstatements about this bill today is that it is so-called paid for, that it's fiscally irresponsible. Essentially, they've taken what we had on the credit card for the stimulus and moved it over here to another credit card. And I think, you know, the American people aren't fooled about this, Larry. I mean, they see it. It's more of the same failed economic policies of the last year and a half. And back in Indiana, folks are pining for a change.
Is there a Democratic panic going on because the economy is going in the wrong direction, i.e., it's slowing rather than speeding up in recovery? Is there going to be a flood of new stimulus packages in advance of the November election?
Well, I really don't know. I don't know what they're talking about on their side of the aisle. I know the polls don't look very good for them. But, you know, yesterday I was up just south of South Bend, Indiana, a very competitive district, a Democrat incumbent from the Hoosier State. We had more than 200 people turned out for our Republican candidate, Jackie Walorski, there. And so, you know, I think you're going to continue to see enthusiasm grow for people that are committed to pro-growth policies, to fiscal conservatism. And I think you're going to continue to see Democrats flailing for some solutions. But as long as they keep doing the same thing over and over again, the American people know they're going to get the same result. We can't borrow, spend, or bail our way back to a growing economy, and they're just taking one more shot at it today.
All right, so on the other side of the coin, is there any update on extending the Bush tax cuts for the wealthy, for the investors, for the small businesses, for the successful earners? Where does that stand in the House?
Well, look, the Democrats have made it clear that they intend to stand firm on allowing one of the largest tax increases in American history to take effect on January 1st for small business owners, family farmers, American business. And but you know, it's one of my frustrations for being here in Washington talking to you instead of at my job fair in Muncie, Indiana today, and that is I think the longer members of Congress in both parties are home, the more they're going to continue to hear from their constituents that they want to get spending under control, they want to get the economy moving, and they don't want to see taxes go up in January on any American. And the more the American people have a chance to deliver that message, the more I believe we might have a chance to preserve the tax release of 2001 and 2003 come the first of the year.
Have you or Mr. Boehner or Mr. Cantor or anyone actually submitted a full extension for all the Bush tax cuts? Is that actually in bill form?
Yeah, I don't know if we've dropped it yet, but that's a debate that we are preparing for this fall. The Democrats continue to indicate that they intend to preserve tax cuts for so-called middle-class Americans, and you know, we certainly welcome that. But the idea of raising taxes on any Americans, particularly job creators, during the worst economy in the last quarter of a century makes no sense to millions of Americans. And Republicans are going to have the alternatives. We're going to make the fight. But I want to tell you, anybody looking in, Larry, your viewers all over the country ought to know. Remember 2 years ago, we battled in the month of August to get them to lift that moratorium on offshore drilling. The Democrats said they would never do it, never do it, never do it. The American people spoke out, and we got the moratorium lifted. I think if the American people let their voice be heard right now, even this fall, before this election, I believe we can still preserve the tax relief of 2001 and 2003 and at least do no more harm to this economy that's been done already.
All right, on that hopeful note, we'll leave it there. House Member Mike Pence, we appreciate it very much, sir.
Thank you.